Okay. Franklin County Board of County Commissioners is now in session. We have several things to go through today, so let's get to it. Commissioner Bolt, could you lead us in the prayer and the pledge this morning, please?
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this time, this opportunity for witnessing your name, Lord. And thank you very much for the opportunity to be blessed today. We ask you to give us guidance and knowledge as we proceed with the county business this morning. And we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so up first is approval of minutes from the February 2nd, 2021 regular meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That carries unanimous, yes, 4-0. Up next, payment of county bills.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimous. All right, sir. We're doing the award and recognition now, correct?
Yes. Miss Amy Ham Kelly, would you please approach
Hey, good
the
deal.
microphone? It's one of the very positive thing here we're doing today, Commissioners. So, Commissioners, you know, a while back, Amy had announced her resignation, and that she was moving on, spreading her wings, going in a different direction. But, and we talked about it a little bit, but I thought a lot more was deserving of Mrs. Kelly because of all the work she's putting. As a matter of fact, she's still coming a few nights, 1 or 2 nights a week after her regular job to come here to a couple of things. One is to train Angela, who's out there sitting next to her. And two, to make sure we'd have no applications, billing applications that are being backed up because they need that floodplain review. So I wanted to take this opportunity for the Board of County Commissioners, and we got a small little memento, I would say, to present to Ms. Kelly for all her years of service, which was before I was here, and all the hard work she's done and to the work she's still doing today. And Mr. Chairman, now I turn it over to you.
So,
Good
Amy,
morning.
good morning. I know this is gonna seem like a little thing maybe to some other people, but I do think it was something that the board needed to do to recognize the years that you've given to Franklin County and its citizens.
Thank you.
It's a small thing, but maybe when you see it, it'll bring back good memories and not all those bad days, because I'm sure they're not all good, right? None of ours are, but thank you
That's
for
life.
everything. Thank you for everything. Any other
Thank you.
commissioners, anything they want to say?
I say the same sentiment. Thank you for your years of service. I really do appreciate it. And it takes a really good person that's really passionate to take your own time out of from your family and friends to stay after work to come help with trying to get things in order to continue on with the work that the P&Z and the building department does. So thank you. You're very welcome.
I too would, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, go ahead.
would like to say how much we appreciate your service to the county, and actually your continued service as we try to make a transition. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And Amy, I can remember the many hours I've sat at your desk, and you've mentored me as a new commissioner over these years, and I have been so impressed with just your gentle spirit and calm all the way through many, many issues that we've talked about. I've appreciated the research you've done on your computer with me and talking about issues, and I've learned a great deal, and I just wish you a tremendous success as you go forward.
Well, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. That means a lot.
Mr. Parrish, you have anything to say? Because I know
Well,
you've been with
I
Amy.
made a little speech last time, so I'm not gonna repeat this speech, because you were successful and a great employee, and I hope for a great future is in store for you where you're at now. But really, you did a great job while you worked with the board, and, you deserve all the credit.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I really appreciate that.
Yep, you can hand out if you guys, I guess we should take a picture, huh? Of all you guys up here with her. And you can take it out, I'm sure nobody sees her. And that is Courtney's taste, not mine, so I don't have that kind of good taste. And do you want to come too, or no?
Oh, wow.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Gather around, Commissioners, gather around.
We're good, we will stay here 15 minutes.
Promise? 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Got it. Thank you all.
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. Yeah. And Amy, the staff's been canceled, so you're free to go.
Oh, they did
Postpone,
cancel.
Pierce, postpone.
They
Don't
did
get me in
postpone.
trouble.
You don't even know where you want.
Yeah.
There's a future box, Amy, if you want it. It's up there.
Thank you, girl. Talk to you soon. Well, you know, we don't live that far apart. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
See, she even cried
you.
today.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, before we get to public comments, just to let you know, Mr. Pierce said the SAPs called back and they would prefer a full board. So they would like to postpone this. I guess I could try again. What month are we in? February? I could try again for March.
Yeah, that's
Our
all we
thing
can
was,
do.
we'd like to postpone till next month, and that's assuming there's a full board there.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'll do again, just so we have a motion till March at 10:30, same time, next month, second meeting next month.
Mr. Chairman, March 2nd, is that what you're shooting for?
No,
No,
ma'am, March 6th, what's the
Okay.
date, the 16th?
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
I
March
just want to make sure
16th
we got a
at
lot of
10:30.
them, I think, for March 2nd, so we don't want to
we do.
that.
No,
so-
March,
No, it'd be
Okay.
16.
Okay.
yeah, March 2nd, we got to
So-
order in for lunch, but yeah, so March 16th at 10:30.
So Attorney Schuler, since they've asked to withdraw or postpone, do we need to make a motion or so what do we need to do?
You would need to postpone to a date, time, and place
Okay.
certain stated in the motion.
Okay.
I make a motion to delay this to the March 16th meeting
At 10:30.
at 10:30.
10:30.
So move.
And all that's providing commissioners, and we have a full board at that time.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous, Jessica.
All right, so with that said, anybody that was on the line that was holding for that public hearing,
Justin Ford is on one I had a,
yes, they can, and I think he was the engineer or something like that for that project.
yes.
So, yeah, but any public comments, anybody wanted to comment on it, they now know that there's it's not a need to stay on the line, until then, because that's been postponed until March 16th at 10:30 a.m.
okay,
All right, so then we could get to
regular public comment.
regular public comments, and I was looking for if he could raise his hand. The first one was Josh from Senator Rubio's office from last meeting. He said he was going to postpone, but I don't see him here, but I see two numbers that I can't see. So Josh, if you're on the line and you're using one of those phone numbers, could you just hit *9? That'll let me know that you raise your hand. But until then, I note, I see oh, there he is. There he is. There we go. Allow to talk. And Josh, if you unmute, I think *6 unmutes you. You can go ahead and address the Board of County Commissioners. Good morning, Josh.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can. I'm sorry.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Hey, I just wanted to quickly just jump on the call really quick and just reiterate the senator's support for Franklin County. I know over the last year it's been tough with COVID and the impacts on and not just Franklin County but all of Florida. So just wanted to drop in and just reiterate our support and let you guys know that I've met with pretty much everyone. I think the new commissioner, I'll have to circle back with you and set up some time just to meet with you one-on-one. But did want to make sure that you guys are aware that we're continuing to be engaged on various issues impacting Franklin County, whether it's COVID recovery, hurricane recovery, Apalachicola Bay, and even the road over in Alligator Point. So just wanted to make sure that you guys know that we're continuing to be engaged. Don't want you guys to feel like, we're out in space, but always feel free to reach out. I know most of you have my email at minimum and my phone number, but if you ever need to speak with me, feel free to reach out anytime. But that's really all I wanted to drop in and say. But if anyone has any questions or concerns, feel free to ask or reach out after the meeting. Appreciate it.
Josh, thank you. I noticed from what you were saying, this is Commissioner Ricky Jones. Seems like recovery is the key word for Franklin County. Doesn't matter what we're looking at, it's recovering for right now. Thank you for staying engaged with us, and I would also like to let you know something positive. The email you guys sent out about the possible grants for firefighters and our volunteer fire departments especially, the county is actually putting that in the form of a letter and sending it to those volunteer fire departments and asking them if they need us to help them pursue those grants. So
absolutely.
That
and if you all go after those grants, let me know. We can put a letter of support together for those grants. So feel free, once you guys have a packet together and you guys need a letter of support, just shoot me an email or give me a call, and we're happy to get that ball rolling for you.
We certainly will. Thank you, Josh.
Absolutely.
Does anyone else have anything they want to say to Mr. Josh? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, Commissioners, so we have a couple more speaker cards that were filled out. One is Ted Mostella, and I see a screen named Ted. So Ted, I'm going to go ahead and move you up to talk. Good morning, Ted.
Good morning, gentlemen, lady. I didn't have anything particular. I just started filling out the card until I came to the point where a specific item there, and I didn't have a specific item at this moment. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay, Ted. That's it?
That's it for now. Thank you.
Okay. Next is, I see a Steve K here, and I think we got an email from a speaker card from Mr. Steve Kirschenbaum. So I am going to go ahead. And Steve, you can unmute yourself and begin and address the board. You have 3 minutes, sir. Good morning.
Yeah, Michael, I'm here. Steve Kirschenbaum, former member of the Airport Advisory Board, and that's the only way I represent myself, and on the Infrastructure Committee for the Friends of Apalachicola Regional Airport. I had myself the U-Haul franchise commissioners in East Point for 5 years, and one of my #1 customers was young families leaving the county for jobs. My only interest in trying to help with this airport in the absence of an airport advisory board is to bring jobs to the community and help the young kids have a future to stay in Franklin County. I have no hidden agenda. This past week, I met with Michael Marone. And also I'd like to thank the commissioners for taking the runway out of the closure in the master plan, and also for looking into addressing the issue of creating an airport board. The airport board, by the time we go through the bylaws, the ad in the paper, all the other stuff that's going to go with it, the commissioners pick, it's going to be about 2.5 months before that airport board is in place. I met with Michael about the compliance of runway 1836. Right now, all the runways have a 200-foot clear zone from the center line of the runway. The airport is currently licensed with all of the runways other than utility. If runway 1836, which is the runway you pulled out of the closure, if we don't address clearing light growth foliage in the sides of the runway and in the approach, it will be classified as a utility runway. If that runway is classified utility, it will preclude it from any funding in the future, period. Right now, DOT doesn't want to fund it because of COVID and because of shortness of funds. But if we take care of that clearing, it's about 14 acres in all to make the whole airport compliant. That runway would be classified at the close of the master plan as a runway other than utility, not a utility runway. You've got a 90-day shot clock right now. April is going to be an airport inspection If this isn't done prior to the airport inspection, we will never get funding on that runway. I think it's really important to do, and the master plan needs to be adopted with that as an airport runway. So if you guys can look into it, Highway used to clear that property. I can't picture it with a piece of equipment costing more than $7,000 to $10,000. The money's in the airport fund. Try to make it happen, and I think if we did it, we would be proactive to the DOT, and they would be impressed, and the FAA would be impressed as well, and want to hop on board with this airport that just reinstated the airport board and pulled the closure of the runway out of it. So I hope you guys can act on this. Thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate anything, and I'm here to help you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
sir.
Thank you so much, Tim.
Are there any more, the other ones later?
Yeah,
during
the other speaker cards are for later in the meeting. You have
Yep.
other people on the line, but I don't see, you want me to call for a raised hand, or we're gonna move on?
No, we need to move on.
Okay.
We already started late. Next is Superintendent of Public Works, Mr. Howard Neighbors.
Morning, Commissioner. Y'all hear me?
We hear you.
Yep.
I ain't got no action items this morning. We have been working a lot of hours with ditches and culverts stopped up on account of a lot of rain we've had for the last couple of weeks. But we got everything flowing pretty good. Issues with Alligator Point, which we fixed all that Thursday, and a couple of sections got blowed out again yesterday evening, which is kind of wet. So we'll be back down there to try to fix it tomorrow.
Howard, real quick, I want to ask you, I know y'all been doing a lot of ditches, and there
Yes,
are a
sir.
lot of them to be done.
Mhm.
And it might just be oversight. I was riding down Schuler Street the other day in East Point, and I noticed that it seemed like to be one of those streets that the ditches haven't been touched yet, and
Okay.
they're pretty overrun. And so anyway, I just wanted to bring that to your attention this morning.
Yeah, I think they've been cut. I think last week it was cut.
Yeah, they might.
We got a few drainage, we got some pipes, not only on that road, Wilderness Ridge, some other roads that people just ain't got no pipes, and one of those pipes, they just got thrown in the ditch, little bitty pipes,
Yeah,
which creates a water buildup, so.
yeah. Well, maybe it's something we need to go and approach the individual property owner and say, hey, look, the same thing we do for everybody else. If you'll buy the appropriate culvert pipe, we'll put it in.
Yes,
And
we
help
have,
fix some of those
commissioners,
issues.
they come back with, we ain't got the money for no pipe, so.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have anything for Mr. Howard?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, Howard, this is Bert Bolt, Commissioner. I just wanted to talk with you about two roads. One is the Rio Vista Drive, relative to considering some repaving of that road, particularly a part of it, starting at the boat ramp area and going back toward the Sopchoppy Highway, not the whole thing, but I'd like to look at what is financially reasonable within my budget to resurface that and perhaps widen it and begin that project. And the other one is I'd like to look at Alligator Drive as it comes in off of 98 and goes into the point. The striping on that road, both on the side markings of the drive of the road and the center line striping, is worn and faded. It becomes very dim at night to be able to have a visual reference on those marks, as well as when it's raining. Those indications are always blurred away. So could you guide me on talking with Roberts and Roberts about some bids on what they can do to remedy these two issues?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, good. I'll stand by.
I think they've got some more paving, I think they got to do in Appalachian, East Point.
Yep.
I know in Appalachian, we'll try to get up with them and talk to them.
Okay, so
See
they're in
what
the
they
neighborhood
got.
then. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything for Mr. Howard?
I do, sir.
Okay.
Item 2 on my report, we're on page 8 of the agenda. At your November 17th board meeting, I informed the board of extensive repairs based on an FDOT inspection that are needed to bridges at Sur Branch and Trout Creek, both located in Tate's Hell Forest. These bridges are used mostly by the state, loggers, campers, and hunters, as there are no private property owners in that area. It's in the forest, state forest. The board directed staff to research how and why the county became owners of the roads leading up to both bridges, and I'm sure Mr. Howard and Mr. Neighbors, Mr. Neighbors and Mr. Pierce should be able to shed light on that matter this morning. With that information, I recommend that the board start the abandonment process for the roads leading to both bridges. If the board proceeds with that action, the maintenance of the bridges will then revert to the state, keeping in mind that the state benefits from the fees paid by loggers, hunters, and campers. If the board does not proceed with abandonment of the roads, our only funding option is to apply for FDOT SCOP Bridge Grant, which is very competitive and will only help with one bridge. The county has applied for this grant in the past, but has never scored high enough to be successful. So, like I said, Mr. Pierce and Mr. Neighbors can tell you why and how we got to Syrup Branch and stuff like that. But either which way, Commissioner, no matter how we got there, we're maintaining roads that we have no residents that live around there. You know, we're paying some money, and the two bridges, I think it's going to be an extensive repairs based on the FDOT inspection report. So, and Howard, you can chime in, and Mr. Pierce, you too, you know, if you guys have any other information. I just think we're maintaining roads we shouldn't be spending money on.
Well,
Bridges, I should say.
Howard, you may have better recollection, because Prentice Crum may have talked to you more about these situations than he talked to me. I mean, when I got here in 1988, they were county roads, but in 1988, the state of Florida didn't own all that property. In 1988, Buckeye still owned that land, and then it got sold to a private developer, so who then ultimately sold it to the state. So I suspect we ended up with had those roads because they were, you know, it was private land, and you know there was no state entities involved. But then when the state bought all that and created Tate Hill State Forest, you know, maybe there's an opportunity when that happened to have done something, but I don't remember. Maybe you do. But in any event, if Michael's correct and there's no property owners in there but the state of Florida, then yeah, let the state of Florida have these two bridges. But I think we had the roads because initially Buckeye owned all that land, and you know it was private property, and there was no reason for the state of Florida to be involved. But now that the state owns both sides of the road, yeah, maybe we can get rid of them because they will be expensive to replace.
That's correct, Alan. Especially that Trout Creek Bridge, you're looking at a lot of money. It's real old. It's in bad shape. Syrup Branch, both of them bridges in the last 3 or 4 years, the county spent a lot of money on them bridges, and the road department, you know, they're not budgeted to spend that much money on them bridges. Since Prentice Crum was back 8 years ago, ever since I've been with the county, I know we maintain the bridges in that road, but it's not an escape route road. So basically, the bigger trucks, you got log trucks and dump trucks, which the state uses them bridges for.
Mr. Chairman, if I could add something.
Yes.
I rode out to these two bridges with Mr. Neighbors in my tour of my district, and there's no residents, there's no, from what we understand, no private residents that if we abandon these bridges and the bridges have to close, we're not going to be affecting them getting to their homes in any way. I just want to make that note for the record. Also, while we were there, we did see a lot of log trucks going across the bridges, which is making it even worse and putting you know, it's making the bridges where they're not going to last anyway. So we could pour money into them. The truckers, you know, hauling this equipment, and it's way more than the gross weight that's required for the bridge or rated for the bridge, and so it's just going to continue to deteriorate. So we could pour money into this, and it's not going to go anywhere because it's just going to continue to deteriorate with the log trucks going back and forth. So if nobody else has anything to say, I'll make a motion to abandon the bridges so that we'll revert back to the state and not attempt any funding from DOT. As you said, it's probably going to be difficult to get anyway.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Ward. Go ahead, sir.
I just had a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
We're talking about abandoning the bridges, is that a county road?
Yeah, right now it's River Road. So I guess what I would ask the board to do, if that's the way we want to go, is let Howard get with Mark and find out exactly how much of the roads that we own that we want to abandon, and then turn that information over to Attorney Schuler. That's,
I mean, if you abandon the bridges and you leave the road open, then they're going to continue to use the bridges.
Yes, we have to
abandon.
abandon
County road. I'm worried about somebody going on the bridge, crashing in the water. When I was on the county road, I wasn't aware the bridges were in this bad a shape, even though legally we've abandoned them.
Yes.
I guess that did.
Ooh, where did that come from?
Question for the attorney, but, I mean, I don't know how long a road this is, but it sounds like to me, if you're gonna abandon bridges, you need to abandon the road too.
Yes, it'll be, Mill Road, I think, leads up to that,
So I don't know where that's.
Yeah, I mean, I would say abandon the roads and bridges, I mean, it's all surrounded by state land at this point.
How big a road, Mr. Chairman, how long is this road?
Well, you turn off, I don't know, I haven't been to the end of it.
It's a pretty good distance. I mean, from Mill Road, you know, it goes from paved to dirt. And I don't know the exact miles, but it's a pretty good ways from the end of Mill Road to these bridges.
Yes.
I mean, it's in the woods.
Trout Creek is
It's
first.
not, there's, the last house is probably, I don't know, Mr. Neighbor, you could probably help me out with this. The last house is way before you even get to these bridges. It's way up,
I just wanna make sure we abandon them in a proper
Right.
Yes.
fashion.
Yes, sir.
I would abandon them at the intersection, and I forget the name of the intersection right there where you split off, and that's where I just do the whole road going north, do it all.
I mean, I know we have a motion on the floor, I was just a comment what I was, you don't wanna keep a road leading up to the bridge.
Right.
And if you don't have something there blocking people from going over the bridge, and
Yes.
something happens and you're on a
Yeah.
county road, I mean, I wanna make sure we do it right.
Yes,
That's all
and
I'm
that's
saying.
what I was gonna recommend, if that's the
So-
direction the board wants to go in, is actually abandon the
I
road
don't know what
to the
proper-
bridges.
Proper way to approach that.
If the bridges ain't maintained and fixed, the state will automatically shut them down.
What do you say?
The state will shut them down if the bridges aren't maintained.
They'll shut them down?
If the bridge is not fixed, we get bridge reports that if the bridges ain't fixed in a certain period of time, they automatically shut them down, yes.
So they'll block the bridges off?
Yes, sir.
Is, Howard, is the Surrey branch closed at the moment?
No, sir,
The
Surrey
bridge-
branch is still open,
still
but
open?
there's a lot of buckhead work and stuff has got to be replaced and done probably within the next 6 months or so, or they probably close it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I ask a question of Howard?
Mhm.
Howard, do these bridges need to be closed down now before we go through an abandonment process?
I wouldn't close the bridges now until the state will send us a letter
Okay.
saying if the bridges ain't, redone, that they will close them. And that road also goes through New River, is 6.6 miles long that we maintain.
Okay, that was my next question, is what distance are we talking about abandoning? And
That's-
are we certain that there's not any private property? All the property along that 6.6 mile route is owned by the state on both sides of the road, Mr. Howard?
Yes, sir, I think the state owns all that.
Okay, we can check with the property appraisers
That-
records to confirm that, but the effect of abandonment, if we abandon the public's easement to the road, is that effectively the property owners on both sides of the road would take ownership of the road without being subject to the roadway easement to the center line of the road. So effectively, this may result in the state owning the road, but I think we need to contact DOT and get them involved in this process, make sure they understand, or forestry or whoever whatever state agency owns those property on the other side of the road, and let them know what's going on and what their responsibility is going to be. Because what we don't want is a failure to communicate, and then as Commissioner Parrish had mentioned, Mr. Howard said that maybe 6 months from now we're gonna have a problem with the bridges, so they need to be closed down possibly either by the county when we abandon the road, or if the state chooses to take it over, then let them continue to maintain the road and the bridges, so.
I did have a conversation with State Forest because they actually called to complain of 2 other roads that we have up there that, again, only leads for campers, no private property. And I told them, I said, look, let me be clear, the board is probably going to be, I'm going to ask the board to move in this direction about closing the roads that lead up to these 2 bridges. And so he said, look, Michael, it'll just add to our list. He said, we have a lot of bridges to maintain. Some of them, they're trying their best to actually, the bridge is short enough, replace the bridges by putting 2 culverts and covering that. That's one of the things they're looking at. I don't think they can do that with Trout Creek, and I talked to Howard about that. We don't think that's possible, but they understand that this is coming, and so, yes, I did have that conversation. And Commissioner Barnes, what I was going to ask is, I'm sorry, Commissioner Ward.
It's
I'm so
okay.
sorry.
That's
Commissioner
all right.
Ward, what I was going to ask is that the motion be that you allow Howard and Mark to get together, determine how much of the road that needs to be closed on both sides of the bridges, and then turn all that information over to Schuler, and he could then start the process.
Okay.
So yes,
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, I didn't say that in my narrative, but I wanted to see the feeling of the board first before I did that.
Mr. Chairman, one further question before the Commissioner Ward amends her motion. Assuming the 6.6 mile long road is just abandoned and closed at both ends and public use is terminated, are there alternate routes for people to get into the woods in that area?
Yes, sir, it is. You got two routes. You got one through, you go through Burnt Bridge, which is a state bridge, right before you get to Trout Creek, and you can also go up 67 and take another road and go into that same area.
Okay.
And the road ain't what's killing the county, maintaining the road stuff, it's the bridges.
Okay, are there alternate routes? Let's say we just abandon the bridge portion only, keeping the roads, block the bridges off for non-use by the public. Are there alternate routes for people to get to the north and south ends of that county road, the 6.6 mile long county road, without using the bridge?
Yes, sir, it is. You might have to take a couple blocks, go around a couple blocks, but you can go around the bridges, yes, sir.
Okay, okay. I just want to get on the record that the public's not being closed off from access to the forest. There's alternate access.
One more comment. I think we ought to abandon the roads entirely and let them put that on the Tatesville State Forest road list. That don't mean people can't use the road. It's just gonna be owned by the state now, which are the property owners on both sides. The road will still be there, and leave it up to the state whether they wanna close the road or not.
Yeah. It'll be,
So, in other words, I don't wanna keep up the maintenance of the roads if we're gonna abandon the bridges. I mean, sounds like it's all up in Tatesville State Forest. Let the state maintain the road, just like they do all the other roads the hunters use and everything else. And just abandon the whole thing.
Again, because you're right, Commissioner, they get the fees for the logging trucks, they get the fees for anybody that's using the campsites out there, they get the fees for the hunter has to get a license. All that goes to the state. So let them figure out how to maintain the roads and the bridges. I don't mean to be dismissive like that, but, you know.
Or we'll switch them out and get a point road for those two bridges.
I was thinking that. There you
That's
go.
never gonna happen, I'll go ahead and tell you.
We'll trade them, huh?
Commissioner Bolt, I've never seen you smile that quickly.
Isn't that great?
Okay. So are we clear on how this motion might be amended? I just wanna make
Yes.
sure everybody's, okay.
So,
Mr. Chairman, I amend my motion to reflect obviously figuring out, I don't want to block anybody off from, I was thinking it's a 6.6 miles of road. There isn't any private residence. I would never try to block off anybody's way to get to their home, but I'm in my motion so that Mr. Pearson, Attorney Schuler, can look into this further and.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Mark
Carrington.
and Howard are gonna present the information to him,
Okay.
yes. Thank you, Commissioner.
and I'll second that with a comment when I'm ready.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Ward, a second by Commissioner Bolt. Go ahead, Commissioner Bolt.
I just wanted to also mention the potential liability that we have with those bridges right now, and I'm glad that we're beginning to have this conversation to recognize that, and just again, an accolade for us as a county of how well we have maintained the Alligator Drive Road over these last 30 years of impairment, and we just welcome the state to partner with us here.
One more comment
Yes,
before
sir.
before we move on, sorry.
Yes, sir.
But if they're continually logging in there, as been stated here this morning, I want this to move.
Yes.
I don't want this to wait 6 months and the bridge is no longer no good. If the board decided to abandon, I want it to move, and I want it to move quickly. I don't want it to wait 6 months.
Loud and clear.
So when Mr. Carrington and whoever y'all designated to look into this, I don't think it should be drug out. I think you need to move on it, and then it'll be up to the state once we abandon it. I know we probably have to have a public hearing on that. We need to get that scheduled and give it to the state and let them make up their mind whether they want the log trucks to continue using those bridges. Because I don't want to continue liability of them rolling through there with big old 80,000-pound log truck, and the bridge we know is deficient. Then you're increasing liability for the county. So I'd like to see this move, and I'd like to see this public hearing set up very shortly. I think it takes 30 days to advertise for a public hearing and get that done.
It has to advertise once before the public hearing. Once I get the legal description from Mr. Carrington and Mr. Neighbors, I can put the ad in the paper with the map and the notice of intent to abandon and schedule the public hearing. But I need the legal description, I need the map.
Okay, I don't know how the board feels, that's just my opinion, I want to throw that out there. I don't think we need to wait, I think we need to move on it.
Yeah.
And if they want to continue using these bridges that they know going down for 6 months, they can assume that liability instead of us.
So is it something, Michael, whenever you get the answers to it, something you can put on possibly your report for the next meeting for us to be able to take action on setting up that public hearing?
That's what we're
I'm
doing
thinking
right now.
today, that's what you're
That's
doing
what we're doing right
now.
now, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman.
yeah.
Okay.
When I said start the process, is just start the process and then get the information from Howard and Mark to
Right.
give it to Attorney. So, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the motion is, that's what we're doing today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the way I understand
So
it
do
as
we
well,
want,
Mr.
we
Chairman.
also want to tag this at the second meeting in March, or we want to go to April?
As soon as I can schedule it, I'll schedule it.
Yep, we'll try to get the second meeting in March if we could.
Okay.
We'll
Okay.
try our best. Because what Commissioner Parrish is saying is music to Howard's ear, trust me, that's what he wants to, sir.
It's all good.
Trust me, that's what Howard wants to.
Okay. All right, any more discussion before we vote about the abandonment of these roads and bridges? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Jessica, that's unanimous. Do you have anything else, sir?
That's it.
1-0. Okay. All right, thank you, Howard.
Thank y'all.
Up next, Solid Waste Director, Mr. Fonda Davis. He's still muted.
You're muted, Fonda. We can't hear you. Your phone is muted. Tap your microphone. There you go.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good. I don't have anything for you all this morning.
All right. Does anybody have anything for Mr. Davis?
You know, just an informational item.
Yes.
The city of Carabel is having a public village meeting relative to the subject of universal trash collection within the city of Carabel. I think that's going to be on the 18th coming up, and I think that would be a very good informational forum for us to sit in the audience and listen.
I thought they already had mandatory trash pickup in the city. Maybe I'm thinking of Appalachia.
Yeah, Appalachia does.
Okay.
I'm not sure about Carabel.
Okay. Anyone else have anything for Mr. Davis? Thank you, Commissioner Bolt. I wasn't trying to be dismissive. I
Sure.
was just, sorry. Fonda, thank you.
Yes, sir. Y'all have a good day.
You too, sir. All right, up next is Emergency Management Director, Ms. Pam Brunell.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I do not have any action items this morning, but Michael had asked us, although we have it in informational, to, I guess, give y'all a sort of a verbal update on the stuff that's in our informational items about how we've used our CARES money. Our staff is working with the health department on their vaccine pods, so we've used our message boards to put out there to show people, that it's appointment only and how to get in, get out. We have our kiosks throughout the county. There's one at the Apalachicola post office, because that's the only post office that agreed to let us put one in. And then the chamber, and then the City of Carabel Chamber, the courthouse annex, and Commissioner, as you know, East Point Napa, St. George Island Visitor Center, and the final kiosk will go out to Chalice Hall and Lanark Village. These kiosks are used to display testing sites information about COVID, but when we transition into hurricane season, then we will use those also to put out information on disaster-related issues. We have put out our hand sanitizers at the 2 libraries, and we've given out 3,000 COVID CARES bags so far to the vulnerable population, and we continue to put those together so we can set up another site in Carabel. Then we'll move to East Point, and then the island, and then to Appalachia to distribute what we have left.
Okay. Good, that sounds good, Ms. Pam.
Thank you.
Anyone have anything for Ms. Pam? Yes,
One
sir.
quick, Pam, do you know who's taking over the, state EOC? I know the director resigned. Have you heard any word about who's taking over his position?
Most likely it will be Kevin Guthrie. They haven't announced yet, but we're pretty sure since he was the chief executive that he'll go under, he will assume that job.
Thank you.
I do have one thing I want to mention, not directly to Pam, but indirectly. So I got an email, I'm sure you guys got it too, that Weems will it's going to start doing vaccines pretty soon for what they consider essential workers with underlying conditions. So, and I should have done this last week, I have to reach out to each of the constitutional officers, and I say that because, I thought Michelle was it, Rhonda's here, and I reach out to the, I think she reached out to the sheriff, but I have to reach out to the others to let them know they need to form a list and send it, there's an email they have to send it to, as the Weems clinics are starting to put this list together. So it's under 65, but with underlying conditions. And I believe, I'm gonna send forward an email to each constitutional officer. There's a link you can go to where they tell you what these conditions are. And Ms. Skipper, I'm looking at you, but letting you know you're gonna get that email from me, okay? And with that, we got a call. Erin got a call. She called me in the room yesterday. There is somebody else that we do work with. They have additional vaccines that they can come and set up a pod to aid Weems clinics in doing the same thing, under 65 with conditions. So they're going to send Erin an email today, and we're going to set that up through Weems and the health department.
Good.
To make sure we're not repeating or anybody's falling through the cracks. You know, want to work off of one list basically. Okay, so I needed to mention that to you guys while I had Pam on the phone also.
Go ahead, sir.
That also includes government officials,
Yes.
essential workers, because we deal with the public on a day-to-day basis. So
Yes.
any of us or any of our staff that needs that,
Yes.
that deals with the public on a day-to-day basis, if you have underlying conditions,
Yes.
then you can register to get your
Yes,
back.
so that's what they're gonna do, the under 65, essential workers with underlying conditions, and then essential workers, and then the list goes down and down until
As they
eventually
fill
they get
one
everybody.
category, they'll move to the
Yes,
next
sir.
category.
Yes.
And there's a lot, I know some of the grocery stores and different restaurants are all waiting in anticipation of being able to get the vaccine because they deal with the public, and a lot of them are not from our state, on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
And I think that's a good move, and I'm glad to see it moving in that direction, so we get more people vaccinated here in Franklin County.
Yeah. And while we're talking about vaccines, I'm glad to know, so we had a discussion a month or so ago about the amount of vaccines we're getting. It was about 100 a week.
Yes.
From that discussion, had to have been from that discussion, so it's the only time we discussed it. Here last week sometime, or maybe the week before, they did an event and they were still doing people 65 and older, underlying conditions. They did an event with over 500 in one day here in Franklin County. So they had to have that supply increased to be able to do it. So we don't always get what we ask for, but if you don't ask, you definitely ain't never gonna get it.
That's for sure. We got 500 that one week.
Yes.
And I think they have another event planned in Carabel, Commissioner, that they got
Christian.
another 500, so yeah. So they're trying their best to get through that list of 65 and older, you know, with or without underlying conditions, honestly.
Right, Commissioner, I was one of the beneficiaries of those 500 because I'm over 65. And yeah, I just want to commend Pam and everybody who set up that day shooting because it worked out really well. It was very well organized. We were in and out of there. In fact, the longest period of time was the 15 minutes you had to wait to make sure you didn't have an immediate reaction to the vaccine. But no, it was very well organized, Pam. Your staff was out there helping direct traffic, and it just went very well. And so, yeah, I think our concerns were heard, and they increased the doses. So people like me who might have had to wait a few more weeks because I'm over 65 without underlying, I got it that first stage, and I'll get the second stage in a month. So they'll set aside the number of vaccines necessary for the second stage. So I've already got my schedule. So no, it was a great asset to the community. And I really thank you all and the state of Florida for recognizing we needed more vaccines down here.
Actually, there was a comment made about that event. They said it was the Chick-fil-A of vaccine inoculations is what they said. So that's a pretty good comment because you all know Chick-fil-A like I do, so yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I just wanted to brag about the health-giving benefits of this vaccine. This is a two-stage vaccine. If you want to think of it this way, the first stage is like a primer, like you're actually painting a surface with a base. That is what the purpose of the first injection is, and the second injection is basically a booster for the primer. I want to also just assure folks, though I am not a epidemiologist in any way, that this vaccine is essentially nanotechnology that has developed this product in such a way it's been highly, highly researched. And this technology brings in a dead piece of the virus injected into you, and the body says, I don't like what I see, and they make a defense against this coronavirus right inside your body. And that's what it's all about. And it's certainly a health-giving opportunity, and I had my first shot, and I can tell you that it was painless and no problem at all, and I encourage everybody to participate. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything for Ms. Burnell while she's here? Ms. Pam, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, up next, Mr. Eric Lovestrand, Extension Office Director.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, Mr. Eric.
No action item for you today, but I did want to mention a report that I received recently. I think Mr. Marone was able to attach it to your reports this morning. I got it to him a little late after we normally do with these things, but it is an angler travel and targeting report that one of my colleagues at the University in Gainesville actually is doing for several of our coastal counties. And it focuses on where people come from to go fishing in Franklin County, what species they're targeting, and provides some valuable information potentially for tourist development related activities. So I also sent a copy of that to Mr. Solomon, and he's very interested in that information. And if you folks have need of more specifics about that report, we can get the full detailed report that's got all of the maps and the charts, and gives us some good background, I think, for knowing how important that industry is here to us.
Good, good. Yes, it is, Mr. Eric. Thank you so much for providing it, because without you doing it, we probably wouldn't even know it existed. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone
Mr. Chairman.
else? Yes, go ahead.
Hey, Eric. Relative to the Apalachicola Bay closure, and as it's being monitored over these next potential years, do you see a role there of our extension office monitoring what's going on there as maybe a sidebar mentor and partner with the Game and Freshwater Fish Commission that's overseeing the closure of the bay? Do you see that helping, facilitating in a local level to kind of keep us informed about how things are going in that bay from your perspective?
Yeah, probably at least in terms of informational aspect. And I do know the folks at the commission that are working on that project and can get the information relative to their survey work, and can pass that on periodically. But decisions about that are way above my pay grade.
They are, and we can be certainly helpful models. And I am really pleading for at least a 6-month progress report on that bay somewhere from somebody. And I've got some resources to look at that, but I would like to partner with you in any way we can get that information to our folks.
Okay, I'll try to get information on how frequent they're doing their sampling work and their surveys to provide that information.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have anything for Mr. Lovestrand? Thank you, Mr. Eric. Thank you for coming today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, up next is our TDC Administrator, Mr. John Solomon.
Morning, Commissioners. How's everybody doing today? I don't have any action items. I do have one informational item, and that's the November 2020 collections was $86,469.54. That's an increase of $29,402.53, which dictates a 51.5% increase over the 2019 collections, which is another humongous increase, especially for November when we did not have Seafood Festival.
Yeah, it does reflect a big number, John. It really does. Anyone have any questions or anything for Mr. Solomon while he's here? Sir, as always, thank you for your good work. You have a good day.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
Yes, sir. Before we go on to Evergreen Solutions, can we take a 5-minute break?
Yep.
All right. Recess for 5 minutes. Franklin County Board of County Commissioners now back in session. Now we're going to have a presentation from Evergreen Solution LLC, Dr. Jeff Ling, President.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Good morning.
Morning.
I have a short PowerPoint to share with you in regards to how we might be able to assist you with a compensation and classification study for Franklin County. I want to talk very, very briefly about who Evergreen is, cover a little bit of our Florida experience. We do just about 65% of the local government compensation classification work statewide. I talk a little bit about that briefly with you. But spend most of my time on the work plan. How would we approach the work if you choose to work with us on this engagement? How long it would take, and then a very brief amount of information that our marketing folks include as part of an overview of our company. So Evergreen is a national public sector management consulting firm, which is a mouthful for we're an organization that basically works with state and local government throughout the country. Our headquarters is in Tallahassee, Florida. We're an employee-owned company. We work in 46 states. We have an extensive amount of experience working with local governments. Just about 75% of our client base are local governments that have compensation or classification needs. We've completed about 600 studies of this nature in the last 10 years, and they varied in size. One of our largest clients is the state of Florida, with more than 100,000 employees. Our smallest would be a small housing authority in Oxford, Mississippi, that has all of 16 people. But typically we work with organizations that employ somewhere between about 100 and 1,000 in their government operations. We do provide other services besides compensation classification, but as I mentioned, our principal business is compensation classification. Some of those other things, we do some recruitment work, we do some staff analysis, we do some retention advising as well to local government. We work with some other organization types. We do work with some colleges, universities, school districts, as well as some nonprofits. But as I mentioned, principally we work with local governments. This is a sample of some of the local governments that we've worked with more recently. You'll see a number of counties that are close by. We're completing a study for Leon County as well as one for Wakulla County right now. A few years ago we worked with Gulf. We've done 3 studies for Bay County. Then you'll see a number of other panhandle counties there that we've worked with over the last several years. Then a number of cities that are listed there in the middle and on the right-hand side of the slide. In a compensation classification study, there's 2 things we're seeking to analyze. One thing is internal equity, or the idea that if I perform a job similar to someone else within the county, am I compensated in a similar manner? Not dollar for dollar, not if someone makes $15 an hour, I have to make $15 an hour, but in essence, we have the same earning potential. And the other component is external equity, or the idea that are you at a competitive advantage or disadvantage in comparison to other places someone might work? And so we use 6 major steps to analyze both of those questions. Step 1 really is to start off the project. We introduce the team members. We finalize the project plan. We do weekly updates based on our work plan to tell you where we are in the process and what we're doing next. And we also identify a communication schedule so that employees are aware, elected officials like yourselves, as well as others, the community as a whole is aware of where we're at in the process, what we're doing next, and what we're hoping to accomplish as part of the endeavor. We do collect quite a bit of data from you and provide that back to you again at the end of the engagement before we begin interacting with your employees. So that's the homework, where we're doing homework about you as an organization. In step 2, we conduct employee orientations and focus groups. And this is where employees can learn more about the process. They can ask us questions, become comfortable with their role in the process. And focus groups are where we give them an opportunity to talk more about their individual jobs and the issues that they deal with on a day-to-day basis in their job. We do interview department heads and a subset of supervisors so they can talk about the concern in their individual departments. And we ask all employees to complete something that we refer to as a job assessment tool, which is basically jargon for a survey about what do I do on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis in my job. And if I'm a supervisor or above, I have the opportunity to identify some of the challenges my staff might have. So the MIT there that's referred to in step 2 is a management issues tool, again, a fancy name for something that basically give supervisors the chance to say, I'm struggling in hiring individuals with these skills, or hanging on to individuals with these skills, or we need a better career path for folks so they stay with the county longer over time. Then, based on that information, we perform a job analysis where we identify the principal task, the division of work, we document that information for you, and we identify in step 3 if you have the right classification structure. So do you have the right titling convention in place? Are you calling things that are the same thing? And also, do you have specifications? So you have detailed documentation of what people do. We'd review the work for each of those classifications. We develop a structure based on the scores. We then develop a plan that we submit for the project manager to review, and we look at internal equity. So as I mentioned to you before, internal equity being that principal concern with our people doing similar work being compensated or recognized in the same manner. And we'll do that throughout the analytical process to ensure that at the end of the day, we're recommending something to you that improves the internal equity within the county. In step 4 is the external equity piece. We look outside. So we identify a group of positions we're going to survey and peer organizations that we'll talk to and collect data from. We conduct that salary survey. We analyze and report that information. We identify an overall county competitive position, but we also come back and share with you in the individual jobs we surveyed your competitive position. Step 5, we combine that information together. We recommend a pay plan or pay structure to you, the ranges that go along with that. We place all of the jobs and individuals within that plan and come back and recommend several implementation options in step 6. So we recognize everyone's a little bit unique and everyone needs something a little bit different. So we wouldn't give you the work we're doing in Wakulla and say do what Wakulla's doing or do what Gulf did several years ago. We developed something custom for the county and several different implementation scenarios on how to roll that out. Typically those scenarios have varying degrees of cost as well as varying degrees of change management, or the degree to which you have to interact with employees or brief employees on how their jobs have changed or how compensation has changed. We do present a final report, and we develop a communication plan to go back out to employees and share the results with them. So we close that loop. They're good enough to participate in the process. We want them to know what we recommended and be able to ask us questions about it. And then we provide some recommendations to you on administering the system. We update your job descriptions, your Fair Labor Standards Act requirements. Then we provide training to your staff on how to maintain the system over time or how to continue to use the system going forward. There's 2 automated tools we provide you free of charge in order to do that. So over our 16-year history, we have consistently provided tools that we host for our clients that allow them to maintain their systems and continue to analyze market position as well as create new jobs. So that would all be provided as part of step 6. So really this last slide talks about why we feel like we're unique, something that our marketing folks put together. We do this type of work every day. It's not a side business for us. As I mentioned, we do a considerable amount of this work in Florida for local government, but we're recognized nationally. A number of state HR organizations have us do training as well as development for local government HR professionals as well as local government managers throughout the country. Here in Florida, through the FPHRA, we do the summer training that local governments can send their employees to on how best to manage human resources on behalf of their organization. Team you'd be working with is collaborative and professional. We're all based in Tallahassee. Easy drive down to be able to meet with you and work with you as we go through the process. With COVID, some clients are asking for in-person versus some are asking for electronic. We have the mechanism to do both and very accustomed to doing both. Another important point is our methodology is a real-world methodology. We're not going to recommend something to you that's unaffordable or you can't do or impossible to maintain over time. Majority of our staff, about 75% of our staff, are past local government or college or university employees or school district employees. And so they've walked the walk, in essence, before they come to work with us. And so we're firm believers we need to give you something that's actionable, but something that meets standards among best practices in human resource management. And then the last part of it is anything we do for you is transparent. There are not any secret black boxes or something we can't show you or something we can't explain to you. We transfer that knowledge to you so that going forward you're able to use the tools we provided not just during the engagement, but in managing this area of your operations in the future as well. Commissioners, I know that was quite a bit of information that I covered in a short period of time. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have or go into more detail if that'd be beneficial.
Anyone have any questions? Well, I'll say this, Mr. Lane, my name is Ricky Jones. I'm Commissioner for East Point and the Island, District 1. If your final product's anything like the ones I've looked at that I've found, and I think the key thing for me was something you highlighted. Not only would your organization be able to help us with job classification and pay scale, but there's several different options for implementation. So it's not like everything I've seen so far of work that your company's done, it gave a very flexible amount of options for implementation and or trying to go forward. So it's not like the board would be spending XYZ amount of dollars on this and only come with one option, take it or leave it. There were several options, and I really like that I've seen in some of those other plans. I looked at some that were done in the last year that we were able to find online, just so you know.
Mr. Chairman, I got a quick
Thank
question.
you. Yes, sir. That's we feel like if it's not something actionable and something that a group of elected officials don't have options, we really haven't done our job. And so we feel very strongly that it's important that you understand the different options, but also that we provide those to you so that you're able to select what best meets the needs of the local government and the community.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner.
Hi, Dr. Ling. This is Commissioner Ward, District 5. I have a quick question. I know it's probably relative in terms of getting to talk to everybody, and it probably varies from county to city to everybody else. How long does a study like this typically take?
That's a very good question. It takes right at 90 days.
Okay.
So it's roughly a 3-month process. So the first month is really gathering data from you, conducting the orientations and focus groups, meeting with employees. The second 30 days is analyzing the data from your employees, as well as collecting data from your peers. And then the last 30 days is really working with you on which option or options best meet your future needs.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, Commissioner, so that I'm clear, what we asked Dr. Ling to do is the proposal that he has will cover your county employees only. So because that's what you directed me to do originally. Right. It was about your county employees. This does not include constitutional officers. They'd be free to reach out to Dr. Ling themselves if that's something they wanted to do. I know Aaron told me they do both. Evergreen does both. They do it in a manner in which we're asking county employees, but they also sometimes do it for an entire county and include all constitutional officers. That's up to this board, but we only ask him to look at a proposal for our county, for your county employees.
So let me ask a question, Michael. If we were going to do that, do you think it'd be better for this board to leave it on the constitutionals or see if there's, I mean, Dr. Ling's here with us, if, in other words, he can do separate studies but all under one umbrella with the county, so at least we have the information. Because all of us are going to be faced with a $15 an hour minimum wage. That's what started this conversation.
Yeah, I would say, this probably is not the same question, but let me ask Dr. Lin. So I guess what I'm going to ask, sir, is there a price break rather than doing the county and each constitutional officers, that if you do everybody under one umbrella, sir, that would put the number up to somewhere, I asked Aaron, about 175 employees to include all constitutionals, I believe, because the sheriff's department actually has more employees than the county.
Yes.
So, Dr. Lin, so I'm asking you, sir, is that what would you recommend as an approach if that's what the board is looking at? Everyone under one umbrella, or we kind of piecemeal it? You do us, then you talk to each constitutional officer.
I can tell you we've worked both ways in a variety of counties in Florida, and I'll pick 2 large counties that we worked with last year. Palm Beach County did not include the constitutionals, Pinellas County did. And the work we're doing in Wakulla right now, the constitutionals are included, where in Leon, it's more one at a time. So it's more, right now we're working with Leon County Sheriff as part of the Leon study. Yes, we do give a price break if they're all included. I can tell you that as a single employer, that it is beneficial to conduct the study simultaneously or to include the other employees, and we'd be happy to pass on those cost savings to you. So we could provide you a letter that in essence would detail, if you did include the 175 or the total count with the constitutional officers, employees as well, what that price break would be and what that difference would be. We'd be happy to provide that to you.
So, okay, you can do separate quotes, is what I'm hearing. You can let us know if it was just county employees versus the entire group. You can do that?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Yes, be happy to.
Well, if I would ask the board, if we proceeded in any way, that's what we probably should ask for.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
The constitutionals in their current year's budget was not given the money to conduct the study.
Mhm.
So if you don't include them, each individual constitutional officer is going to come back and want the county to fund a study for them too and their employees.
Right.
They're not going to let us, I mean, I think we catch a lot of grief for doing a study for the county employees only.
Mm-hmm.
And then next year, so you're implementing two different programs at the next budget cycle that you're going to do this for the county employees, but the constitutionals get left out because they don't have the funding to have Evergreen come in and do a study particularly for their office.
Yeah.
And then as it mentions price break,
so
how can we do this for the county employees and not give the constitutionals the money to have the same study done for their group of people?
So you're saying we're going to pay for it anyway, so we might as well pay
We're
for it.
going to pay for it anyway,
I hear
because they're
you.
going
Might
to
as well get a
immediately
reduction.
come over here and want additional funds to have a study done for there. And if we're going to do this, then the county should be the one to receive the benefit of
The study.
The break.
the cost savings that
Yes,
the
sir.
gentleman was just talking about. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean,
Makes sense.
I'm not directing the board in any such way, but that's my opinion, that we're gonna pay for it one way or the other. Why not do this study all the way through? So that if we decide to go X, Y, or Z, then the Constitution can include that in next year's budget submission. In other words, if we go back, as we typically do budgets, and say, okay, everybody hold their budget where it's at, don't increase your budget, well, that ain't gonna work this coming up year.
Yeah.
If we make changes, then we're making wholesale changes. If we're not, then we're not, but that's my opinion on that.
And Mr. Chairman, I agree with Commissioner Parrish's statement. We can't do for one and not for all. We're already getting this done. We might as well just add that to the mix. And I'm sure it's not gonna cost that much more in relative of money. But I'd like to jump on this as soon as possible because, 3-month process, we have budget coming up in July, right? When we start looking at the budget. So, I'd like to get this going if we can, so that we can analyze and get all the data and look it over for the budget process in July.
Mr. Chairman.
And one more thing, I have one question for the gentleman, the doctor there. Are you still gonna be able to hold that 90-day timeline if we include the Constitution?
We will. We should be able to do that with the constitutionals. As long as we hold those orientations and focus groups at the same time for the VOCC side as well as the constitutionals, and we have all groups fill out the survey at the same time, we can still meet that 90-day time frame.
Okay. That's good to know.
Mr. Chairman, I would just applaud that this would be done for the county on a consistency basis. I think that's the big factor. We need to mix all county employees there. And also, just a matter of fact that I've been taught here in the last few days, the employees of the hospital are considered to be leased employees.
Yes.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that means that they are not county employees.
That's
Is that
correct. That's correct. Now, Attorney Schuler, so if just to let you know, Aaron and I, Aaron did a lot of research talking to Evergreen, Dr. Link. They are part of a state contract, so we could just if the board decides to move forward today, there's no bidding or process necessary, because it's obvious from their list of clients that, you know, they've done other counties right around us, as a matter of fact.
I agree. State law does not require the board to bid out for this service, and your local bid policy is geared toward the purchase of tangible personal
Equipment.
property. The board
Yes.
always reserves the right to bid out for services, but your local bid policy does not require it, and nor does state law in this case. So you're in a position to act this morning if you choose to.
So I guess my question would be, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Dr. Ling. My question would be, because I think I know the number we were talking about before we started discussing today, but if we're including the Constitution, I guess the board will need to know at least close to a dollar amount that we're saying yes to.
Yes.
Yes, so I would ask him, sir, to follow you, I'd ask him that with all this in mind, he talks to Aaron next week, or this week, later this week, and at the next meeting, I come back with a true proposal that this board could then agree to and move on, and authorize the chairman to sign that proposal based on the price. That makes sense to you, Dr. Ling?
That does. That'll work perfectly. We'll communicate with Erin. We'll have a couple questions about the employee count on the constitutional side. We'll work with her, and we can turn something around to you right away that you can bring back.
Okay. So is that something that we need to vote on, or we can just do it by direction? What do we need to do, Attorney Schuler?
I don't think you have to take a vote to receive a proposal. Your vote will come once you receive it. This is just a
I think
presentation.
that's just a direction to me and
Okay.
Aaron, and we get with Dr. Ling.
All right. Anyone else have anything for Dr. Ling while he's still joined us here this morning? Doctor, thank you for your proposal this morning, representing your company. And sounds like we look forward to doing business with you. We'll be talking about it here in the days to come.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate everyone's time this morning and look forward to speaking again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so up next is planning and zoning. Ms.
Mhm.
Courtney Bankson.
Yep, Courtney's on there.
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you loud and clear.
All right, good. The first thing I have is the critical shoreline applications.
Courtney, you might want to
Consideration.
share your screen so that they can see the,
Yeah, that would make sense, huh?
it helps.
Can you see it?
There you go.
The first one is the consideration of a request to construct a single-family private dock located at 261 River Road, Carabel, Franklin County. Applicant will be contingent upon federal permits. The dock walkway will be 27.8 foot by 8 by 40 hinge floating terminus, submitted by Garlic Environmental Associates. The Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval contingent upon federal permits. They meet all their lot requirements, riparian lines, lot lines. I cheated because I had Mark help me look over these, so.
Okay, pleasure of the board.
So move.
Have a motion by Commissioner Ward,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous, Jessica.
All right, next we have the consideration of a request for a single-family dock and boat ramp located at 315 Gander Street, Lot 4, Block 51, Unit 5, St. George Island. The applicant will be contingent upon state and federal permits. They're building a dock, walkway, and terminus and boat ramp. Also submitted by Garlic Environmental Associates. And the Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval contingent upon state and federal permits.
Okay, Courtney, quick question. There's no problem with repairing right lines where this is at?
Nope,
And,
they meet all the requirements.
okay, and let's see, make sure I'm right. And there's no problem, it's in a canal, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think he's on the line. Hold on one second.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Looking at the picture, it shows the canal's closed up on the bay side.
It looks pretty
I know they-
close, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's pretty shallow over there. Oh goodness, where is he? Do I have Garlic Environmental on the line? If you could raise your hand for me.
Let's see here, Courtney, I'll check. No, I don't see anybody from Garlic Environmental on the line.
It looks like it meets, on the pictures, it meets the riparian lines, as long as it's not too far into the canal to cause problems for anybody else that might have a dock or a boat in the canal. That was my only question.
I
Commissioner
don't
Parrish,
think
do you have a
they're
question?
just doing, I think they said there's gonna be some dredging happening in that area. They're just wanting to be able to get to the property so they can build.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Parrish,
So
did
it's
you
not
have a
gonna stay
question?
shallow for long.
The only question I had, it don't look like they got access to the bay, but she has since stated that there may be some dredging
Yeah.
going on after that.
Mr. Chairman, it looks like there's a picture further down that looks like there's a little bit of water, I don't know how deep it is, going through.
Yeah.
But if they're gonna dredge it, I guess it gives it access.
Yeah. Okay, that was my only question, Courtney. I'm fine with your answers.
Okay.
Pleasure of the board.
So move.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bolt,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That was unanimous, Jessica. Carry on, Courtney.
Okay. The next one, if it'll come up. The next one is for the consideration of a request to construct a single-family residential pier located at 1721 East Gulf Beach Drive. This is actually one of the first pier that we've had go before planning and zoning. Usually it's a boat dock or a ramp. Can you guys see that pretty good?
Yes.
Okay. The pier will be 168 by 4 over marsh and 30 by 4 over open waters with a 6 by 20 terminus and a 6 by 20 step down. From what my understanding is, the only thing they'll be probably putting on the boat on this is maybe kayaks. They're not planning on, because it's so much marsh, they're just going to put the pier, no boat dock or ramp or anything. And the Planning and Zoning Board did recommend approval. And they have all of their state and federal permits.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You saying that the step down is going to be used for kayak launch? Is that what I understood you to say, Courtney?
I don't remember if it's for this one or for the Schneider. I think the Schneider one is for the kayaks. They weren't going to do an actual boat because of that canal being so shallow.
But isn't this the Snyder one?
Yes, I'm sorry. The Mick,
Yeah.
Terry Mick is going to be for kayaks. And Schneider, they're not going to have any boats or anything, no kayaks. I'm sorry.
So the step downs maybe just to get them closer to the water, maybe?
Yes,
Yeah, because it is a pier, not a dock, so.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Mostly for fishing, if they
Right,
can.
right, right. I can appreciate that. Pleasure of the board.
So move.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Bolt,
Second.
second by Commissioner Parrish. Any discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous, Jessica. Carry on, Courtney.
All right, now we're getting into, let's see if I can flip this. Into the final plat approval, And this is for a final plat approval for a 5.66 acre parcel of land lying in section 36, township 8, south, range 7 west in East Point, Florida. It's going to be named the Bluffs of North Bay Shore and will consist of 5 lots over 1 acre each. Submitted by Andy Durham, and he is on the line. I know that.
I do have a question, Courtney, and it's only because of the way this is worded. It says 5 lots of over 1 acre each, but at least 2 of the lots have exactly 1 acre.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not, it just confused me when I was reading it. I was thinking they're all gonna be like 1.2, 1.12, or 1.08, or 2 of
There's a
them
couple of them that are
exactly
1.1 acre, and then
Right.
like the funky shaped ones are a little
Yeah.
more than an acre.
Right. As long as they are at least an acre, because if they're not gonna be buildable where they're
They
at.
are.
So,
They are.
okay. That was my only question.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
a question. Hi, Ms. Courtney, this is Michael Schuler. Good morning. The lots that are exactly 1 acre, does the proposed plat say 1 acre more or less, or does it say 1 acre?
It says 1 acre.
Okay, very good, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Courtney, did Mr. Durham have anything for the board? He said he was on the phone. Is that just for
Yeah.
questions?
Andy, can you hear them?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
With the lots facing Magnolia Bluff, which is a county road, and there'll be no additional private roads included in this.
That's correct, sir. That's correct. The driveways will come right off of North Bay Shore. Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Parrish,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Ward. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Jessica, that's unanimous. Mr. Durham, it passed.
Thank you very much. Y'all have a nice day.
Yes, sir. Carolyn, Courtney.
All right. Next, we have a commercial site plan application. This will be the consideration of a request for a commercial site plan review for 7,636 square feet, retail commercial building over 6 lots, describes as lots 3, 5, 6, 7, 28, and 25 of Block E. This is on St. George Island. The request has been submitted by Lance Watson, Southeastern Consulting Engineers. This is
Courtney, would you click on your participants things to move that out of the way of your screen?
Did I move it out of the way?
The participants window. Is that?
Is it still out of the way?
Oh, I'm sorry. That wasn't you. That was me. My bad. I apologize. Too much technology. I'm sorry, Courtney.
So the building that's going up, it's actually almost mirror image to the building that's right next to it. It's the same owner. He's just adding more retail space.
Okay.
I did discuss this with our Commissioner Smokey to get his take on it. I think the only concern he had was the septic as to where that's gonna go, but they do have to submit septic and stormwater review for approval. So the Planning and Zoning Board recommended approval contingent upon both of those permits.
Yes.
One question, does the site plan meet all the setbacks and all that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And a question for the attorney, does this commercial site plan, if we approve it, does it go to a public hearing?
No.
Go straight?
If you approve it, it's approved.
Okay.
Yeah, there's, they have to get the stormwater permit from the state of Florida, but no, you're in control of the site plan.
Looking at their, Mr. Chairman, looking at their stormwater, it looks like they're using some new technology for the stormwater plan. In other words, there's not a berm in the swell that I see, and I don't see any room for a berm in the swell. Looks like they're using some new technology there, Alan. Have you ever?
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. Low-grade stormwater storage chambers, like they're subsurface or something.
It looks like it runs under the building.
Yeah. I will tell you that there are not the villas, the condos on the corner of east of Gulf Shore Boulevard and Franklin Boulevard right there, those condos, their stormwater's under the building also. So they've used it on the island before.
So it does function properly.
Yeah, I mean, so, as you know, this island is full, it's just sand, so.
Right.
I won't say that sometime in the future that the soil doesn't get contaminated and per block, but I know that has worked pretty well there.
You talking about at 300 Ocean Mile?
No, I'm talking about the building right there on the
I think
corner.
Franklin
Oh,
won.
yeah, okay. Okay. You said condos, I was just trying to think where they were. Well, I'll say this, I know that there was a lot of discussion and had been a lot of discussion for many times about how small the lots are on the island in the business district, and the fact that they have invested enough money to buy multiple lots and put them together for one building, I think is moving forward and bringing business to the district one way or another. That's what it is, so.
But I have some extra parking in there too.
I will say, I mean, this is the second largest commercial building to be built on the island in the last 40 years. The first one was probably the thing on the corner that was so controversial, the grocery store complex there. But if the island wants a business district, you have to have these kind of structures. It's the only way. If you don't have these structures, you're going to have skinny minis. I mean,
Mr. Chairman. And that was my question, Mr. Chairman, about whether it went to a public hearing, because we're going to catch a lot of heat whichever way we go on this particular project, because public has no input. And of course, I know pretty much what that input will be, but
no, commercial
haven't
site
gone
plans
through
don't
it
require
before,
public.
but.
It's not being rezoned, it's within the.
So I would deflect to the commissioner whose district this lays in as to how he feels about it.
Well, I agree with some of what's been said, and often thought it, the board took quite a shot anyway in the past and probably will continue to, about how small those lots are. And, that I can tell you this, the overwhelming thing I heard from the business district and the residents of the island and people that work there is they don't want to see a continuation of houses there. Well, this is one way to assure that's not going to happen. Wherever they put this business up at, they're not going to be houses. So it is the business district on the island. So.
And they, Mr. Chairman, they also don't want to see the continued commercial exploitation of the commercial district.
Right.
So I mean, what do you want? Do you want skinny minis, or do you want businesses in the commercial district? And that's why it is a commercial district. But as Alan stated, you have to have multiple lots in order to try to do a commercial endeavor. You can't do it on one 25-foot lot and provide your parking and your aerobic system and your building. And I don't see nothing wrong with it myself.
No.
But, I mean, it's not my district.
No.
I would refer to that, Commissioner.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of curious, is there a street profile? I'm just kind of curious, because this is I'm sure some sort of flood zone. So how high off the grade is this building?
I think it's built with the same grade as the one that's right beside.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of on a drier area of land.
Okay.
So they don't have to elevate too high.
Good.
Attorney Schuler, do you have a question?
Yes, sir. I have a question for Ms. Courtney. Michael Schuler, Ms. Banks. Did the P&Z make sure that this site plan is compliant with the overlay district requirements?
Yes.
Because the
Yes.
overlay, they did. Okay,
I had to
thank you.
double check that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'll tell you another thing I like about it is, so not only they're having to address stormwater, which is something we need to continue to address in the county, because not everybody retains their stormwater on their property. And that's a problem. So addressing stormwater, that's going to help in an area we're trying to move forward with our restore dollars for the business district. And they also are adding, what by my count's about 50 additional parking spaces in the business district on the island. And I'm sure, I could be wrong, but I'm sure that their business alone will not be the beneficiary of those additional parking spaces. So I'm in favor of that. Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, one more
Yes.
question. It looks like the, and correct me if I'm wrong, Courtney, is the lots, they're split, or there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lots. Looks like there's an alleyway going in between. Is he wanting to expand in both these areas and put stores on both these, or is he planning on putting it all together?
This is gonna be a separate standalone building.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not gonna attach it to this other building.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so what you have in the picture you're looking at, Jessica?
Yeah.
The bottom is where the store's gonna go.
Okay.
The top portion is where the parking lot's gonna
Oh,
be.
okay, I see. I gotcha.
Yeah. And Commissioner Parrish, you were probably on either the board or the planning and zoning board when the last one was built there. There used to be an alley there, didn't they, abandon that alley to allow that development?
That's my recollection.
Yeah, okay. I thought they did.
I think they did.
Okay.
And another, Mr. Chairman, another question I asked Courtney when she come down and talked to me about it, was all these lots contiguous?
Yes.
You know, and
Yes.
the answer was yes.
Yes. Yes.
Some on one side of the block, and some on this side of the block is where the
Right.
numbers go from 6, 7, and 8, and then up to the 20s.
That's right.
That's another question that I have.
Okay, so we didn't have a motion yet, did we? Just, okay, sorry, too much discussion, I lost where we were. So pleasure of the board.
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimous, Jessica.
All right, last but not least, we have the lot reconfiguration, or basically it's just an amendment to the St. James Bay PUD to allow for the construction of 16 more golf villas and a 72-room inn in the St. James Bay. Request submitted by Robert Williams, agent for St. James Bay. Planning and Zoning Board recommend approval to go before public hearing, and he is on the line.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'd like for the attorney to speak on this issue.
Okay.
Well, first I have a procedural matter to deal with the board. I spoke with Commissioner Bolt yesterday. He has informed me that he has a lease agreement that he entered into with the developer 2 years ago, long before this matter ever came up. But nonetheless, he does have a voting conflict, and I've advised him that he cannot vote on this matter, whether to go to a public hearing or otherwise. I also want to disclose to the board that I am a property owner in St. James Bay from 2004. I bought a couple of lots. I don't have a conflict, but I'm not sure what you want me to address specifically, Commissioner. So,
As I discussed this with you, you were talking about this PUD and how the county did away with their PUD ordinance, but this was granted many years ago.
Yes.
And under that particular ordinance, they were allowed up to 500 units.
I think I spoke with Mr. Carrington about that yesterday. He's doing a lot count to make sure that they're underneath their capacity of, I think it's 499, not 500.
Okay.
His recollection is that with this proposed PUD amendment, they would be below the maximum threshold for the density, but he is going to double check that. In terms of amending an existing PUD, I believe the board does have the authority to move forward and amend the existing PUD, but it will require a public hearing. I've discussed with Mr. Williams, the attorney for the developer, the process, and I concur with his opinion that only one public hearing is required for the board to consider the amendments proposed by the developer. So does that answer your question, Commissioner Parrish?
More or less, I just wanted the board to have the same information that I have, that allowing this will not put them over the threshold of what they were originally granted by the county. They're just coming back. They only built so many units, and now they're wanting to expand upon that, but they're still below the threshold. Looks like Mr. Pierce has information.
Well, I was going to just tell you two things. One, of course, the general PUD ordinance that we abandoned has no really effect on this one because this was a self-standing PUD ordinance. So that's number one. Number two, the 499 cap, Commissioner, was partly in place because at the time the state of Florida had what was called the DRI process, Development Regional Impact Process, and that in order to avoid being a DRI, you had to stay below 500. The state of Florida then amended that cap and raised it. So I just say that if somehow there are slightly more than 500 units now, I'm not sure it's going to trigger anything other than that we would have to amend our cap on the PUD. Hopefully that won't be necessary, but I don't think it'd be a big step either way because the state of Florida changed the DRI threshold and elevated to like 750 units now or something, some much higher. They did about 15 years ago. But anyway, yeah, the 499 cap was to avoid the DRI process, but I think that's been elevated.
Mr. Morone.
Sir.
I noticed that Mr. Williams is on here for public comment. Is he here just in case there's any questions?
Yeah, but he
or do you
can,
have something he wanted to say?
let me see if he wants anything to contribute. Mr. Williams, you are unmuted, so do you have any additional comments for the board on this item?
No, sir. We just would like to request a public hearing. We can certainly make sure that we meet all of the criteria that we need to meet for that and answer any questions, but we're really just here to answer questions today.
All right.
Thank you. Ms. Courtney, so you're saying that P&Z board approved going to the public hearing, so they've done the checklist and everything's ready to be heard, is what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. All right, pleasure of the board.
I so move to take this to the public hearing.
Okay. We have a motion by Commissioner Ward.
Oh, you can't vote, right?
That's right.
Second.
There you go.
I'm sitting here waiting on the commissioner
I
of
know.
that district to have it.
That was classic right there, I'm sorry. That caught me off guard.
For the record, Attorney Schuler, I'll get the 8A form filed for Commissioner Board.
And second by Commissioner Parrish. And I also was not able to make a motion, so thank you, Commissioner Parrish. Any discussion before we vote on taking this to a public hearing? I got a question. We don't need to set the public hearing time and date today, do we?
No, it has to be advertised.
Okay, has to be advertised, okay.
And Courtney will handle doing the advertising. So.
Sounds great. I just thought I'd ask before we vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Just that passes 3-0. Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney.
No problem. That's all I've got.
Good job for the first time. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, so I can make the announcement now.
Yes.
Just remind anyone that might be on the line that wasn't on earlier, the public hearings today for the 2 parcels that's being referred to as a SAPS project, those have been postponed until the March 16th meeting at 10:30 a.m. because we did not have a full board. Today we anticipated, it didn't work out, so hopefully we'll have one in March. And so if you're on the line, I just want to let you know that. And that's that, and I don't know if the chairman's gonna take another break now before we finish up with the reports.
No, I think we're good. Y'all want to take a break or y'all good? I think we're good. Let's go ahead and finish.
Okay.
Is there a report from Ms. Maxwell's office, clerk of courts?
No report from the clerk today.
Okay. All right. So, sir, are you doing Ms. Griffin's report?
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right, so there's a number of action items on here, and I'm familiar with some of them, but the first one I'm not, but I believe it's standard. Authorization for the chairman to sign the Title VI non-discriminatory assurance form and review the Title VI non-discrimination policy and plan. These are federal documents. The county abides by non-discriminatory policies and procedures from the state and federal grants, require acknowledgement and documentation of these practices every 3 years. The previous acknowledgement policy were last dated February 2018, so we need to redo these, and I have the forms for the chairman to sign if so approved.
It basically has a housing, Commissioner Parrish is very familiar with these, because I think Mark and I are now the ones on those.
So moved.
Non-discriminatory housing.
We have a motion by Commissioner Parrish.
A second.
Second by Commissioner Ward. Any discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's 4-0, Jessica.
Second item is approval of three resolutions and ranking transportation alternatives. I'm not sure why the term transportation alternative is capitalized. It must be maybe an F2T term. Requesting adoption of the 3 attached resolution from the board authorizing the chairman to sign the grant applications for 3 transportation alternatives. This again must be a DOT.
It is what they call TA grants.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So this is something different than the SCOP.
Yep, that's right.
Yes, sir.
Good deal. The county is applying for 3 this year: sidewalk along Otter Slide and Avenue A in East Point, a multi-use path along River Road in Carabel, and widening and resurfacing the multi-use path on St. George Island between 6th Street and 7th Street East. That was the first phase. The board also needs to rank these applications. So Mark Currington recommends the ranking of Otter Slide and Avenue A first, River Road Project second, and St. George Island Resurfacing Project third. So motion to sign the resolutions and accept the ranking.
Good. Pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman, with a comment,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay.
And second?
We have a motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any more discussion before we vote? I also agree with the ranking of these projects.
Well, I presume the motion to approve is the
Yes,
resolutions.
it was.
Yeah.
It was. It was. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
I just want to comment, Mr. Chairman, thank you for making these priority in my
Mhm.
district. I appreciate that. I do.
Yep.
And I'm sure the residents do as well.
The next item is approval to advertise for CEI service on Alligator Point multi-use path. This is the path that's been delayed before, and so we're going through the process again, I guess. Planning Office is requesting approval for the board to proceed with advertising for consultants to provide CEI services for the construction of the Alligator Point multi-use path at Alligator Point from George Voss to Gulf Shore Boulevard. FDOT has recommended proceeding with selecting a CE consultant for the phase of this project. The consultant will be paid out of the FDOT grant. So we'll advertise and we'll open up RFQs at some point.
Yep.
So move.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bolt,
Second.
second by Commissioner Ward. I just have a question. So any of the other, and you may or may not know this, Alan, any other things that presented problems before, have they been addressed?
I don't know.
That was mainly the water line.
Yeah.
That's right. That was the purpose of having
Right.
the new engineering study, is to be sure we address those water lines.
Okay. Sounds good to me. I just wanted to make
And we're
sure.
going to bond with the Alligator Point Water Resources Department in that venture, yeah.
Okay. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimous.
Okay, next is approval of Amendment 2 to DEO time grant extension, grant time extension. On October 2019, Franklin County received $750,000 of Hurricane Michael assistance grant from the Florida DEO. This grant will fund the 12.5% FEMA match for the repair and replacement of Alligator Drive and the 12.5% match for C30 East and West shoulder repairs. The total obligated FEMA cost estimate for Alligator Drive is $5.5 million. Of course, we'll be opening bids for that on March 2nd, so we'll know exactly how much money we need out of this DEO. And the CE30 East and West shoulder repairs is $387,000 some odd change. Franklin County will be opening bids again on construction of Alligator Drive at the next meeting, and the design for work for C30 repairs is underway. The extension will extend the grant agreement end from June 30th, 2021 to June 30th, 2022. And I think that'll be adequate to get C30 done.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion before we vote on authorizing the signature of the extension of this agreement with DEO? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimous, Jessica.
Item number 5, there's actually an amendment to this because there are two grants that we were working on at the airport, and Aaron has one listed, but the other one came in this morning, and so I'm going to ask that you all do both time extensions for both of them now and just get them out of the way. So the first one that she has written here is approval of Amendment 1 on the airport master plan update. This is a time extension because of COVID. And I'll just tell you now, the second one is also a time extension, and it's for the other project underway out there. It's called Runway 624 Lighting and Rehabilitation. They're both being spent for the same period of time and for the same problems. There's been, COVID has just slowed everything down. So I would ask board action to approval of Amendment 1 on an airport master plan and Amendment 1 on the Runway 624 Lighting Rehab, changing the timeline.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
And Jessica,
Passes.
not only was a grant, there was also a resolution that goes with these. And then the next items are information, and they're fairly lengthy, but I'll sort of give it to you in a quick order. The first one is a shore update. Aaron and I were on a conference call. I think the chairman actually was on part of that call with us also regarding the restore status with Treasury. And we'd asked for permission to begin advertising for design consultants on the dune restoration project on St. George and the St. George Island Stormway project while Treasury finished reviewing the various documents submitted by Langton. Treasury responded that Franklin County can begin advertising for design consultants while the review is ongoing. However, the contract for the design should not be ordered. So you're going to see an advertisement pretty soon to get these things started. That's item number A there. B, we also asked for permission to submit an amendment to the MYIP for construction funds while the planning grant is being utilized. Treasury responded with clarification of when an amendment would actually be needed. An amendment to the MYIP would be required if there was a material change in direct component results, and well, there's not going to be one. I can just summarize that right now. So we're not making a change, so we will be getting a preparation for the construction funds. This will allow us to begin, once we finish the design, we then have money for construction. We won't be going back to Treasury, which is driving us crazy. It's taken us 2 years to get this thing done. The fewer times we go back to Treasury, the better it is. So we are trying to speed this thing up finally. And that was really, I just summarized item C right there, that there won't be that we can switch money between the two construction grants without having to do a full amendment. So that's item C. So once the county received go-ahead and planning grants are formally accepted, Treasury will authorize and we'll begin to advertise. So I just tell you all that as soon as we hear from Treasury that the grants have been accepted, the chairman will actually, Aaron will do it electronically by hitting a button on the computer, and then we begin advertising for this thing. So what we've done in order to speed this up, we have 2 task orders that between the county and Langton. Item A is a pre-award for all the work that Langton's done on these projects. We've been working over 2 years. At this point, and I'm summarizing what's written here, over 2 years at this point, we have not paid Langton a penny. And so this pre-award task order will reimburse them once they've been awarded. They'll get $3,000 for each project. That's $6,000 total for 2 years worth of fighting with Treasury. It's a good return on our money. It's not a very good return on their effort, but it's a good return on our money. So, and Michael Marone signed that because it didn't require board action since it's consistent with the grant. And item B is a post-award task order, which will help put out the ads for the design firm and review the design things and come back with a recommendation to the board. The total funding there is $7,000 for each project. So the Langton, out of these $100,000 that we're getting for planning, will get $10,000. The remaining $90,000 will be available for the design work on each project. And they say Michael signed these task orders and they're in the board file. But we're just trying to speed up this process because it's been too slow and too long in getting to this point. And I've rushed through that thing, so I apologize. But if there's any questions about Restore, I'll be glad to answer them.
So this is nothing we need to take action on today?
No, Mike signed these things.
Just wanna make sure. Okay.
And the last and also information, at the last commission meeting, Commissioner Ward mentioned a funding announcement that she received by email in regards to 2020 Fire Protection Safety Grant Program. And Aaron has sent out letters to the fire departments, all 7 volunteer fire departments with the county, about how they can apply for these grants, and she's saying trying to assist them. But the fire departments really know what they need, and they need to decide whether they want to apply for these things, and we'll be glad to assist them.
Sounds good.
And that is the end of the report.
Anybody have any questions about any of those items? Thank you, Alan. I'm like the rest of the board, I'm really happy to hear that we're moving forward with some of this stuff.
Yes, Aaron gets all the credit.
Yeah, we seem to have been bogged down for a while, so thankfully we're coming out of that. Thank you. Mr. Morone?
Okay, so before I begin my report, which is page 7 as we follow along to the very bottom, Commissioner Bolt is going to love this. So while we were while we were here talking about the vaccines that we're going to give, that's coming to Weems, to the clinics for under 65 with underlying conditions, your CEO at the hospital got a call from ACA, from the deputy secretary of ACA, and they're going to send the county 200 more units of vaccines for that purpose specifically.
Great.
So
excellent.
We're getting quite a few. I mean, it's small numbers from each group, but it's adding up to a big number that we can do that. So I just wanted to let you guys know that.
Thank you.
So let's get to item number 1. At your last meeting, there was a lengthy discussion about code enforcement in the county. After the meeting, Attorney Schuler suggested that I look for a third party to conduct and facilitate workshops throughout the county to get a feel of what residents would expect of a code enforcement department. I asked Chairman Jones to contact Appalachia Regional Planning Council, as he's the county's ARPC representative and sits on the executive board, to find out if they would be interested in facilitating these workshops and then presenting a summary report to the board. They are very much interested in this project, as they have planners on staff to do just that. In order for them to prepare a quote for the county, they'll need to know how many workshops the board would like conducted in the county. So I need some direction from the board here. And I'll say this, so the reason I'm saying how many, because it's not necessarily by each district, I think we have to more consider the people that live in the districts and have our workshops in that way. So let's take what I consider one of the hardest districts is District 1, the Chairman's District. So I think what the people in East Point are looking for code enforcement versus what the people on St. George Island are looking for code enforcement is two different things, Commissioners. I do. So I don't think one workshop to cover those two. I don't know. I don't see that productive. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm overthinking like I do sometimes. So that's what I'm asking the board. Can you guys, what, are we gonna do 5 and figure out who attends which one? We're gonna do more, is it 4? Because we don't have to include within the 2 cities because we have no jurisdiction there. However, there is a large area, unincorporated area outside of the 2 cities that we have to also consider. So is this something you guys wanna think about and come back at the next meeting? Let me know, and I think it was an excellent idea, but for Attorney Schuler, by the way, for this, to do this.
I think, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
One in Lanark Village, which would cover Lanark Village and Alligator Point. One in East Point, one in St. George Island, one in Apalachicola.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I concur with Commissioner Parrish. I think we should, spread it out. Like you said, we don't have to include the city municipalities because they have their own code enforcement. But we need to extend people that, live in these areas with transportation. They are allowed to be a part of these hearings so that they can have their say in what they recommend and what the recommendations are. Because like you said, everybody's going to have a different take on what they want in terms of code enforcement.
I don't really hear a lot out of Alligator Point as far as code enforcement. Do hear a lot out of Lanark Village.
Yes, I do.
And with, like you said, 2 municipalities and Commissioner Locklear's whole district is encompassed within the city of Apalachicola. So, but my district isn't. So having one in Apalachicola, and as I stated, I think 4 of those meetings should pretty much address everything.
And keep in mind too, I have in District 5, I have the city limits, but I also have the Carabel Beach area, Woodhill Road, all that area that I feel like people need to be included as well because the city doesn't extend to them.
Right.
So do you need one in Carabel for the unincorporated area?
I mean, I think that would be a great idea. You said 5. I mean, I think we should spread it out. Yeah.
Well, that would be 5 if you did one.
Yeah.
So Carabel unincorporated?
Yes.
Okay.
Lanark, Carabel unincorporated, Island, East Point, one in Appalachia. That's 5 workshops.
And I want to clarify for the board in the discussion I had with Mr. Rito, and if it was wrong, please tell me. The discussion I had with Mr. Rito about it, which ARPC has people on staff for it. This is a growth management issue. They're definitely happy to help us. But what Mr. Rito was communicating to me is, look, we'll be glad to have these meetings so the board can know what it is that the citizens are really wanting to address when they say the words code enforcement. But they're not looking at, unless the board directs them different, bringing us, this is what you should do. They're looking at bringing us the information for us to process for our citizens and us to make the decision over, just to make sure. Yes, just to make sure you're aware. So that's not even in the discussion. They're gonna come back and say that Franklin County, this is what you should do. No, they're just getting the information together for us is what they're doing.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm really pleased to see that we have 5 focal geographical points. This is all about inclusion and access. It's certainly been probably one of the dominating topics that has been presented in front of me since I became commissioner. I think it's very important, and I appreciate ARPC, and it's very important that they be able to gather the information. But I also feel like this has been such an important concern that some professional guidance on what we do with that information should almost be concurrent or follow the gathered information that we receive. And I'd like to consider if there are professional consultants that have done this before in our state that we could look at as a potential proposal to see what do we do with this massive information that we're going to be gathering and how we manage it correctly.
There
Could
might be, but I think we need to get the information first, because.
Information first, see what it looks like?
We don't
Okay.
know what it is without these meetings. The other thing is, as I'm sure, I'm sure it won't be a significant amount of money, but part of the reason we're talking about it here today is we're not saying okay to ARPC doing it and whatever it costs. That will now come back to the board when they get direction, how many meetings we want to have and scheduling it, then they'll let us know about how much
Yeah,
that's going to cost.
I'll bring back a quote to you now
Right,
from ARPC. I can now contact them. But Commissioner Bowe, something you might want to consider and talk to Mr. Rito, Chris Rito, ARPC. Okay, so once they bring back the information, you guys kind of digest it. Can they provide that service that you're looking for?
Okay.
To be the consultants, as they have access to information from a number of counties in this area.
Sure.
So that might be a way of thinking, sir.
Okay.
That's up, up to the board, but you can have that discussion with him, sir.
Okay.
I can tell you this, they've been very helpful with, as the board probably remembers, we had a discussion about the competitive Florida grant that the town of East Point applied for and actually received. They've been through, it's still with COVID, they've still been doing it. The next meeting in March is gonna be like an asset mapping meeting. It's gonna be a hybrid, some are gonna be over Zoom, some are gonna be live there with us. But we're gonna have representatives there from all the different state entities, DOT, anything that could be anything to add to this economic development plan for East Point. And all this work has been being done by your regional planning council.
Mm-hmm.
So, I can tell you my interactions with them has all been professional, and I expect this will be no different.
Very good.
So, Michael,
Direction.
So my direction is to request a quote for
request
five meetings and
yeah.
bring it back to you guys at the next
Yep.
meeting for approval.
So move.
Do we need a motion?
Not really. I don't think you need.
I don't think
you not need a
Yeah,
motion.
you give me
Want
good
just direction?
Commissioners.
Okay.
Yes, I'm good with your direction. Yeah.
Okay.
Save the motion for when I bring it back to you, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay?
All right, we've already covered number 2, sir.
Okay, so item number 3, Florida Association of Counties 2021 Legislative Day is scheduled for Wednesday, March 17th, next month, of course, in Tallahassee. And I'll quote from their website, "This is a great opportunity to show legislatures the impact you are having at home and remind them of the importance of preserving and strengthening home rule. Governor DeSantis, his cabinet, legislator, and agency heads have been invited. If you're planning on attending, please contact Ms. Bank Courtney as soon as possible. I just need board action to authorize travel and expenses for any commissioners that are attending Legislative Day in Tallahassee."
So moved.
We have a motion by Commissioner Parrish,
Second.
second by Commissioner Bolt.
Comment.
All right, go ahead.
I think it's very important that perhaps we plan on having appointments with our representatives.
I've already discussed that with Mr. Morone.
Sure
That'd
has.
be good, because remember,
Yes.
it would
Thank
be
you for
good
the
for
reminder.
us to be
Yes.
together. We'll do it for Commissioner Jones and I to be together
Yes.
to do both those appointments.
Yes,
That'd
it'll be,
great.
everybody's going. It'll be
That
at
was
the same
very
time.
apparent last year. We needed an appointment.
Okay. Make sure I work on that,
Yeah.
sir.
All right, any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That passes unanimous, Jessica.
All right, so we're, item number 4, we're wrapping up the paving project that we had with Roberts and Roberts, to save on a lot of the mobilization costs. So attaches change order number 5, which wraps up the county's road paving project with Roberts and Roberts. This change order is a final adjustment to quantities for reconciliation of over and underruns of materials. Net amount of the change order is decreasing overall contract price of $26,532.95. The new final sum for the contract with Roberts and Roberts will be $510,294.04. Board action to approve the final change order number 5 for Roberts and Roberts for a decrease of $26,532.95. You're not issuing a check today. This is more of a bookkeeping item as we move towards paying that final invoice, which will be coming after this is approved. Okay?
Pleasure of the board.
All right. Question. On this, you're saying this is the final change order.
Mhm.
Now, they were supposed to do some stuff out on Bluff Road. Is that on there?
I will ask Aaron.
There
to
where the
copy
culvert
it.
is by the time
Yes.
they found this place where it's so rough, I wanted that redone. Is that on here?
I don't know, Commissioner. I'll double check and see for you, because I know what's not on there is that thing that Commissioner Lockley had asked for to pave that dirt road, and both of you asked that at the same time.
I don't see my project on here, and I
Okay.
don't want this to be the final change order and I get left out.
Okay, I'll
'Cause then
contact.
you gotta go out for bid and everything else.
Yeah, I'll contact Andy about that project.
I don't know, I don't see it on here. I see where they did the thing on Magnolia. No, that ain't Magnolia, that just says Magnolia.
So,
I don't know where some of these jobs are, to tell you.
I'll
Or the
find out.
emergency job for, Bay Shore, is that where they redone the
That's
culverts
in North
going
Bay Shore.
across there?
Mhm.
I mean, so I know a lot of these things, but I don't see my project on here, and we're talking about this is the final change order,
Okay,
and I don't want that left out.
okay, I'll
And
find.
also, I was talking about doing some paving at the encroachments of Buddy Ward Park out here, off of Highway 98 as it comes down to our fence.
Uh-huh.
It always gets beat out right there from people coming and off the highway and getting back on the highway, pulling boats and, trailers and all that. So I was gonna pave down to, our restroom right there.
Yep.
In through the gate to our restroom.
Okay.
It always gets beat out the entrance there, and then outside the gate, the fence out to the approaches of Highway 98.
Okay,
And that's another project that I talked to Roberts about, but it's not on here
on here either. Okay, I'll give him a call, ask him why.
Because as we move forward and get ready to open up, hopefully this museum out
Yes.
here in later spring, I guess it looks like might be getting there.
Mhm.
I'd like to have this done, which makes it easier getting into the park and back out of the park without tearing the drive up constantly. It's a constant job for the road department to go out there and keep grading, and every time it rains, it just fills up with potholes.
Well, Mr. Chairman, if I may, can I ask the board not to take any action on this change order right now, since it seems it's gonna be amended here,
yes,
before it's all over?
Yes.
And I'll bring this back to you at a future meeting once everything is included.
the only question I'll ask is, by us not taking action, does that adversely affect Roberts as far as the money they're gonna receive or when they're gonna receive it?
I will find out
Okay.
for you. And maybe what I'll have to do is do both, do the change order and the pay request at the next meeting as part of my report. Okay? So we're gonna do the change order here and then the pay request at the next meeting.
So all these projects are completed?
Yes, sir.
So they're wanting payroll for this?
Right.
My projects haven't been completed.
Right.
Yeah, and I have.
They are on the list, but
Yeah, well-
what they were explaining to, Mr. Chairman, I'm
No,
sorry.
you're good, you're good.
They were explaining to me that they were gonna do my projects when they do C-30 from the Gulf County line to 13 Mile, which is a project that they were just awarded, which I guess is a state, or did we award that project? Anyway, they got that project, which is about 3 miles long. While they got their equipment in the area, they would come into Appalachia and do that and
Okay.
any additional stuff.
Okay.
So they may not do this, my project's next week.
That's why it's not on this change. Okay, that explains it now, Commissioner, because
But I don't,
This
like the
is
way it's
ba-
worded, that this is the last change,
So,
because I get left out.
do we need to approve it without the word final being in it?
yes, then if
Just to
that's the
approve the
case.
change order in front of us without it being final?
If they've completed this, I hate to hold up their money.
Yes.
Yes.
But I don't want to say that this is the final, because then we have to go back out for bid to complete my 2 smaller projects. They're real small projects, it's not big money. But
Yes.
they haven't completed them, so they
So-
don't need to be paid for, because I hadn't really got a price on what it's gonna cost me to start with.
So if I could explain, now I understand. So basically, this will be the final one based on the project they were doing at the airport, because that's the project we were working off of to get all these roads done.
That's correct.
If they're gonna do yours when you do C-30, that'll be a different, project altogether. So that'll be an extension of the C-30 project. You see what I'm saying? So when we say final, it was final based on the work they were doing out to the airport, where we use that to tack on these jobs to make change orders. So again, it's up to the board. You can delay this, and I find out from them, okay, do I need to tag, add the projects that Commissioner Parrish had onto this one, or wait until we do the separate one to C-30? It's entirely up to the board. But if they've discussed with you when they're doing it, then I think they're gonna do it as a separate project. If you get where I'm coming from, Commissioner.
I do.
Okay.
But we've had these other county roads in Carabel, different places, that was tagged onto this airport contract.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were
So,
here.
if you try to tag this on to 13 Mile, does that mean we got to come up with a whole new bidding process, or can we
No, we just do it because they're already in the county working on a project. So you guys basically make a motion like you did for the airport project and allow them to do these roads.
Okay.
As an extension of that project.
I'm fine
And we
with that.
fix it with change orders.
Okay.
Correct? I tell you, sure you lean forward and lean back. Am I close?
Well, I'm hearing about this live at the meeting, kind of
Yeah.
like, because I'm terrible about looking at the agenda, but in this case, just take out the word final, approve the payment for the work that they've done, and if you need to close out for a bookkeeping,
Okay.
you'll have 2 weeks to figure out what's the right thing to do instead of trying to fly this plane.
On this plane.
While or build the plane while we're flying it. Let's
I hear you.
get them paid for the work they've done, take out the word that's final, and keep all our options open and go from there.
So the motion I would ask for, based on Attorney Schuler's advice, is just to approve change order number 5. Just leave it at that.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Parrish, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous.
All right, Commissioners, item number 5, at your last meeting, the board authorized a salary increase for your county building inspector based on his certification. I included language in my narrative that change should have been done effective January 1. However, I did not include that same language in the request for the board action for the motion. So now I am. Board action to authorize retroactive pay for Mr. Patterson, the county certified billing inspector, salary increase to January 1, 2021, Commissioners.
So move.
I have a
Second.
motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Bolt. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous, Jessica.
Item number 6 is an item I received from Ms. Deborah Belcher, she's the county CDBG administrator, and I quote, "The board directed Ms. Belcher to pursue applying for the CDBG-CV funding for expanded broadband service. I requested technical assistance from DEO regarding whether the improvement would have to serve only LMI, low medium income neighborhoods, and what expectations they would have about residents subscribing to a service they might not be able or willing to afford, especially with children going back to school and not having to work from home. No answer has been given." She also spoke with the director of the DEO Office of Broadband and learned that they don't have information about where broadband service exists in Franklin County and where it's lacking. She also twice contacted the Florida Internet and Television, I didn't even know that existed, the association representing internet providers, in an attempt to find out what is needed and where, and which companies might be interested in serving LMI neighborhoods. But still, don't have any information. At this time, she still doesn't have information to develop a grant application. We can schedule the CDBG CV mandatory grant application public hearing for March 2nd, 2021, at your regular meeting on March 2nd, 2021, which would allow the county to continue pursuing the grant and submit something by March 15th, deadline if feasible. A planning component should be part of the application. So, as Commissioner Ward said earlier, I'm asking for board action to authorize this public hearing for the CDBG CV for March 2nd, regular meeting at 11:15 a.m. Commissioners. That's the
And if we
fourth.
don't need it, we just count.
That's the, yes,
Sure.
we don't need it, we cancel it. That's the 4th public hearing on that day, I do believe.
Yep.
Yeah.
What does LMI stand for?
Low,
Low to
medium,
moderate income.
Okay.
And Michael, yeah, hopefully she can get some answers to some of this stuff before, because what she's addressing is exactly what I remembered that we asked her to try to get the money for.
Mhm.
To help us draw up a plan so we know what we have and where we have it and where we need it.
Yep.
So,
It's almost like, once again, the cart before the horse with the state, and I'm not criticizing the state, so
No.
please don't take it that way.
No.
But it's almost like, we have this money, they want us to spend it, but when you ask specific questions, they're like, we'll get back to you on that.
so I can tell you through DEO, they are doing a series of meetings. I sat in one last week trying to address this issue. And the map they're doing is the map with minimum speeds. It's different than every other map, because we've had this discussion before. It's not a knock on any company, but if you ask Mediacom and Consolidated, we're good. You know, they can show where they have fast speeds, in areas of the county, therefore it's all good. The map that they're doing, that DEOs haven't done themselves, is a minimum speed. So it doesn't show the potential at my house, how high it can be. How low is it? So they can try to address that, because that's the problem.
That is the
You
problem.
have areas that are low, that don't even have the ability to get a faster
Yes.
speed.
Yes, I mean,
So, anyway, it's gonna be an ongoing discussion, but
Mr. Chairman, I just pulled this up on my phone. At the last legislative conference, isn't there an app, this Tested app?
yes,
Is that something that we could maybe advertise for people to download?
Yes.
And they can hit a button and it'll test their broadband capability to kind of help maybe get some data?
yes.
Is that something she could maybe reach out to these people that do this app to figure out?
Oh, that's done by NACO,
Oh,
National Association of Counties. Yes.
but we can probably
yes.
get some data maybe to help with this process?
That's basically what it sounds like, is you need to do your own study.
Yeah.
for
Yes,
your
that's what it's
own
coming down
county,
to.
And then you
Yeah.
use that to apply for the grant.
Yeah. So,
We haven't done a study, I mean, if you look at what she's saying, she's approached this one and that one and this one, none of them have any information.
yeah.
mhm.
So you have to, the county as a whole has
Yeah,
to
it's
do
a
its
good
own study and see where it's lacking and where it needs an improvement. Then we ain't got time to do all this, cause we ain't got
No.
until March 15th. Well, I mean, we can set the public hearing, but if we don't have no information, we got to
Yes.
go to council the public hearing, but
That's right.
that's kinda what it sounds like, that you kinda on your own as a county, doing your own studies,
Mhm.
your own evaluation, and then
Well, my-
submit a grant to get money for improvement.
Aren't we members of NACO?
Yes.
Okay, can we possibly get information from them of the people that have downloaded that and tested speeds in the county, so we
Sure.
can
Mr. Chairman, this app,
benefit from that?
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
You're
interrupt.
good.
Our mission, this app will help identify areas with low or no connectivity to help ensure adequate funding for broadband infrastructure is provided across the country.
Mhm.
So it's an app that you download on your phone,
Yep,
and you hit the test button, it will test it.
yep. Yeah, it's called Test IT.
Yeah.
I think they actually did that last legislative sessions when they rolled that out.
Yeah, it just came to my head,
Mhm.
popped in my head when we were discussing it. Might be some data that might be useful
Right.
for this meeting.
I guess I'm just a little puzzled why the Florida Internet and Television Association that represent internet providers can't just give you that information. I mean,
They say it's proprietary.
really?
They don't want other companies to know where they're failing at. So they don't want their information out there. Competition.
Yeah, but if you got funding that you could get the government to provide funding so you could help your company provide better service.
Yeah.
But I guess it all depends on what your priorities are, Commissioner. I hear you.
At the end of the day, the biggest hurdle to broadband internet infrastructure is the amount of people you're signing up to it. At the end of the day, that's the problem. The amount of people you have in a small rural county versus what you have in an urban county. The amount of subscribers, the amount of money it's gonna be paying. But one of the key things that I will point out to the board, and it's already in the discussion of what they're doing, especially for rural and small counties, okay, what areas, when you get a map of what you have, what areas can we meet with broadband? What areas need to be met with maybe wireless or another cell tower? So they combine together, you can come up with a working plan of how to meet the needs of your residents that you have in the
Yeah.
county.
And then, as Commissioner Bolt asked earlier,
It's not gonna be simple.
what the LMI is, how does that neighborhood affect what funding you're going to get?
Well,
We're hoping that they're gonna say, no, it doesn't, you hold that against you,
Yeah,
basically.
I don't think they are, because they're not gonna be able to.
Yeah,
If they're actually gonna use the money for rural counties, they're gonna have to check the box and say, okay, yeah, this is under CDBG, but DEO is doing something they've never done before either,
Yeah.
by having Office of Broadband, and they're trying to address the issue. And I will say, to make sure the rest of the board's aware, Senator Osley, which represents our district, this is one of the things she's really adamant about seeing happen in her district. So that's a plus for us and everybody else.
But as you move, Mr. Chairman, as you move into a low to moderate income neighborhood, and you put infrastructure in, how many of those people can afford to actually get in?
That's another problem, yes, that, you have a point there.
And the money, the grant monies is probably not gonna allow you to just allow free access, because then,
No.
then the government is competing with the company.
Yeah.
No.
But they keep referencing the low to moderate income.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those people are gonna need help
To pay the bill.
in order to access the infrastructure that you put in place.
So they're not only discussing speed and reliability, they're also discussing affordability.
Yes.
Yes.
And that affects your private companies, which is
Yes.
why they don't wanna let go of this information we were previously just discussing.
Yep. Yep.
Because you got government competing with a private company.
Mr. Chairman?
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What do you think the school board might have in the way of interest of facilitating all this entire process? Obviously, those kids are residents and probably one of the strongest users.
I think it would, I honestly think it would be more complicated for the school to address because they may or may not know 100% where all their students actually reside, if you get what I'm saying. They know where the students that ride the buses reside, but there are a lot of students that their parents drive them in or they drive in. You know what I mean? It's going to further complicate the map for them to try to come up with their own map.
Okay.
You know, if we don't have a map for them to go off of, they would be trying to produce the same thing we're trying to produce. is what
And
I'm
they're
saying.
more concerned with having, Mr. Chairman, they're more concerned with having internet provided at the school.
Yes.
As they can relate to their computers and all these different iPads and stuff they have at
Sure.
the school. So they're more concerned about the school having the ability to provide all that and not out in the community.
Well, during Corona, they did have a time frame where kids that didn't have internet access because they were having to do school from home, they were provided like a Wi-Fi hotspot.
Yeah.
But it was only for that time. You know what I mean? Coronavirus funds paid for it. It was all covered by the federal government, those kinds of things. So did we have a motion to actually schedule that public hearing?
Not yet, sir.
Okay.
Not yet.
Pleasure of the board.
I'll make a motion.
All right. Commissioner
Second.
Ward makes the motion. We have a second by Commissioner Bolt to schedule this public hearing for March 2nd at or around 11:15 a.m.
Good luck with that, is what you're trying to tell me, huh?
That's what I'm trying to tell all of us.
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
Any
Chairman.
more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous, Jessica.
All right, so the rest of this is informational items. The Camp Gordon Johnson, if you're going to attend, let Courtney know so we can make arrangements to have enough, big enough or two golf carts, ATV, UTV, whatever Pam provides. FWC commission meeting, it is still virtual, so you guys can still log into it if you have time, and there's anything on the agenda that you want to see. And finally, one more item from Ms. Belcher. The last East Point Wildfire CDBG mobile home replacements are now underway, with the final two being scheduled for delivery by April 30th, the grant expiration date. 23 homes would have been replaced. And that is my report, Commissioners.
Anyone have anything for Mr. Morone? Additional? Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Attorney Schuler. Your
Good morning,
report, sir.
Commissioners. 4 action items for you. They can all be addressed in one motion by the board. They're all requests for authority from the board for me to engage in 4 enforcement actions, up to and including filing litigation if necessary for 4 apparent violations of your building and zoning code. I had sent you out via email a written report that gives you more information. I'll be happy to delve into as much depth as you would like to this morning. But for the record, the 4 addresses are 329 Highway 98, 331 Highway 98, both in East Point, 2626 Highway 98, which I believe is around the Yellow Hill area near Carabel Beach, and 2036 Highway 98, also in the Carabel Beach area. The 2 units in East Point are basically unpermitted construction of 1 unit, a 2-story unit at 329, and apparent use which may be in violation of the zoning code and the building code. 331, construction of multiple structures, at least 2 of which were after the fact permits for unheated structures which appear to have been finished and completed and being used for habitable space, perhaps being rented. We don't know yet. We're still looking at that. The 2 units in the Carabel Beach area are Hurricane Michael damaged properties. The preliminary report from the building official is that both units are damaged in excess of 50% and appear to the building official to constitute a public health hazard. At least one of those units has an exposed and damaged septic system. Apparently the building official is unable to even locate the septic system that formerly was at one of the locations. But I feel like I've gone as far as I can with the preliminary investigation without getting board approval to take further action. So with that, I'll take any questions from the board if you have any. If there are no questions, then I think the board can authorize the enforcement action for the 4 units and addresses described in one motion.
Pleasure of the board.
I make a motion.
So, second?
I have a motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Bolt, to proceed with these action items in these different locations that Attorney Schuler has discussed here with us this morning. Any more discussion before we vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That's unanimous, Jessica.
Those are the only action items that I have for the board this morning.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else have anything for Attorney Schuler this morning? All right, we're down to commissioners' comments. Any commissioner comments? We done about
Mr.
commented out,
Chairman.
haven't we? Did you have one, sir?
Just 3 brief items. I just was very encouraged at attending the last Weems Memorial Hospital Board meeting. The meeting was well attended, not only in Zoom, but in person. I can tell you that our management company, the Alliant Rural Healthcare, is certainly in a quality mode of action. Very well organized materials, prioritized projects, and have shown progress lines with regard to those projects, and very easy to read financial summaries, which I think have been just well done. So it was just an excellent, high-quality meeting there. I'd also like to just recognize that I am very proud of the Alligator Point St. Teresa Fire Department. At the last board meeting that I attended with those folks, they are just very well organized, not only financially but administratively of their meetings. And although this is not official yet, it is not official, they have moved into advanced training such that there'll be 5 of their volunteers that will be Firefighter 1 certified probably within the next 30 days. I think that's very special for rural health like that. Attended the Alligator Point St. Teresa Association board meeting last Saturday. Again, those folks have just completely reset the button with regard to the organization of their entire association. That goes down to communications, emails, and so on, and it seems like it's very well addressed. And just another comment that, as you know, I do live at St. James Bay. I can tell you, I can give you comfort that that PUD is highly designed, very, very sophisticated, and it's very, very high quality. And I just let you know that I live there and certainly feel like it's something that the county can be very proud of.
Any other commissioner comments? Meeting adjourned.